Hello, good morning, everybody. Isn't it a lovely day outside? I hope it is where you guys are. I hope it is where you are. It's very sunny outside today. One of my cats, Kizzy, has just come in from outside, and her fur is all, lovely and warm. So, she's been sunbathing out there, which is really, really nice because she is a real fair weather cat. Doesn't like the rain at all. So I'm just gonna do my hair. Don't mind me. It's always a bit weird, because I think that my hair is okay, and then I start this, and I see myself, and I'm like, oh, what happened to that? Okay, so I'm just gonna have to just rejig it a little bit. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. You know what it's like. You know what it's like, because I'm sure you guys are doing more video calls than ever before, and you might not be used to them, and you think you look okay, haven't checked the mirror for a while, and then you get on a video call and all of a sudden you're like, oh, didn't realise that was going on. So there we go. It's a bit better now. Hello to Colleen and Paul and Catherine and Sue and Denise and Annie. Annie, I saw you in your lovely apron, so thank you for sharing your picture. It was brilliant. It was really, really lovely to see you as well. Finally being able to put a face to the name. And Sarah says good morning. Sue says no, it's very Yorkshire today, sadly. Okay, I'm guessing that means that there's rain. I'm sorry, I will try and push it up there. I'm in the south, so I'm gonna have to push really, really hard to get it to you. So Annie has just sent me a couple of cats with hearts in their eyes, which is always a lovely thing. Katie, thank you for being our admin today. That's really, really great of you. Thank you. Gloria, thank you for joining us again. I hope that we can brighten your day. Catherine said, I need one of those classy aprons, so you can get these from our website now. So quite a few of you have been getting them, which is really, really lovely, and thank you for that. Lisa says good morning, can't wait to cook. Me too, because I'm making cookies. Not only am I making cookies, not only am I making cookies, I'm making millet pistachio cookies. Sorry. Anna, thank you for joining us again. Paul said lots of questions yesterday to Dr. Gemma, even more questions than jokes. I know, right? I did have to prepare her beforehand, and I did say that sometimes we do all get onto the joke thing, the vegan foodie joke. So, but she's totally cool with that. But I must say that before we get started, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. Before we get started, there were loads of questions. There were so many questions. I'm so sorry if we didn't get to your questions. I didn't want to cut any of Gemma's answers short, because with nutrition, it's very too often we get these messages about nutrition where it's very, very short and it's very, very black and white, and nutrition isn't really, really like that. So I wanted her to really go into a full explanation and not cut her off. So I'm sorry that we didn't get to all your questions, but the good news is that she will be back again. So she has said that she will fit us into a busy schedule, and we will be able to ask all those questions that you didn't quite get answered. So yes, there we go. She will be back. So if there was any kind of burning questions that you wanted answering that you didn't get to on yesterday's show, then to try to keep them in mind and store them up for the next time. So the next time is likely to be a Monday, but we may have a bit of a shift around in the schedule, because our Nikki is going to France for a few months. Lucky her. So she'll be cooking out there, but she's not too sure on the Wi-Fi situation. So we might get this whole kind of Nikki in Provence show going on, if the Wi-Fi will allow us, but equally we may not. So we may have to change a few things around. Okay, so Let me see if we've got any more comments here. Trevor, thank you for joining us. And Erin, good morning, good morning. Colleen said, just looking at the list of ingredients, are you going to show us how to make pistachio butter? No, I'm not. So the pistachio butter I had, and actually I'll get the jar for you. Okay, it's this one. There we go. So this is the one that I use. It's from a company called Natural World, and they make the most amazing artisan nut butters and seed butters. Very, very, very good. They have about 18 different types. And the gentleman who founded the company and makes all of these amazing butters is a gentleman called Mordecai, who has come to our school to do a talk to our students. And he is brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. I want him to be my uncle. He's very, very passionate about what he does. So the products are primo products. Really, really, really great products. Not the cheapest, but not the most expensive either. But in recent times we have seen so many different nut butters come onto the market, but none as good as this. So he's really, really careful to make sure that any of the nuts that he toasts, that they aren't burnt. And you know, sometimes you do get that with some nut butters. But the sad thing about Mordecai's business is that he doesn't necessarily have the money behind him to do all the marketing that all of these like nut butter companies have. So you guys may have seen them at vegan festivals. They have, you know, fancy banners and, you know, loads of like staff there like giving out like freebies and stuff like that. It's just him. And, you know, he's a pretty much like one-man band. Pretty much does everything. I think he now finally has one helper, but what he makes is amazing, absolutely amazing. So I do really, really recommend them. Thank you, Katie, for being on it as always. So she has just shared the link to Natural World, so you can go and see. I don't know if these are organic, so Sarah has just asked that. It doesn't say on them that they are. I'm just turning it around just so that I can just be sure. No, I don't know if they are. I mean, it might be something that he would consider doing, but I think one of the issues with this, and this actually highlights a lot of issues when it comes to being a small-scale food manufacturer, is that organic may, at the moment, be far too expensive for him to do because he's working on a smaller scale, but it might be something that he will move on to in the future. And that's definitely something that has happened for one of my other favourite brands, which is Hold My Dods. A lot of their products weren't organic, and now they've been changing a lot of them over to being organic. But I'm very much of the opinion that it's great to support producers like Mordecai, who are creating something that we as professional chefs in my industry, we can use to make exceptional food. You know, it's one of these like great cheats for people who want to make food to sell. If you have products like this, it makes making food so much easier, so much easier. Catherine asked, are they raw? I think she's talking about this, and it's not raw, but you can find raw, absolutely. And just to say that if you don't have pistachio butter, you can use kind of like any nut or seed butter that you have. So it doesn't have to be pistachio butter. It's just that is what I had in my cupboard, and I was trying to think of recipes to use up things that I have in my cupboard rather than buying new stuff. But you can use peanut butter or almond butter or cashew butter, or shall I go through all the butters? But pumpkin seed butter as well would go really, really well with this. So this is slightly bitter, and I find pumpkin seed butter a little bit bitter as well, and also it's the same colour. So you know, that would be a good swap. But any nut butter, any seed butter, tahini would be a really good one to put in. Really, I think that would be good. I'd really like to taste that actually. So if you make it, invite me around. Sahara says, I do have a question about kombu for cooking beans. Do you know it's okay to use flakes instead of the whole kombu algae? Okay, so I think that you can use I don't see why you can't use the flakes actually. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. The only difference between using like the whole kombu and the flakes is that if you use the flakes, then that can be a little bit annoying if you want to get all of those out. That's going to be a bit more difficult. Whereas when you use a big piece of kombu, obviously, like, it's a lot easier to take that out of the pan. Right, okay. So, Doug, thank you for joining us. Justine, thank you for joining us again. And Sarah says that she just checked and doesn't have enough millet. How much millet do you have then? Because if it isn't that far off, you could always just balance out the oats and the millet. So as long as you have like 200 grams in total, then you know, you can add more oats to make up for the lack of millet. Or the other option is that you can make a half recipe. There you go, half recipe. But you could also use things like buckwheat. So if you have buckwheat groats, which I absolutely love, then you could use them for this recipe as well. So, you know, you have a bit of flexibility. So, guys, let me just go back to our picture and show you what we are making today. So as, of course, we've mentioned, these are millet cookies because you guys have mentioned that you have millet in your cupboards and you don't really know what to do with it. So not only are these cookies going to be millet cookies, they're also going to be pistachio cookies, of course, because we've got pistachio butter in there, but I'm also going to use a zest. So you can use lemon, lime, orange, any citrus fruit zest is absolutely fine. Now on the top of those I have put some hemp seeds. You don't have to do that, but that's a way to make them look quite pretty. I made some here's one I made earlier today, and I haven't put millet seeds on them just to show you what they will look like. Okay, so that is what we are making today. And okay, and then these are our ingredients here. So really simple recipe. We do have these two optional ingredients. I've already mentioned the hemp seeds. So hemp seeds are really great at making anything look pretty. Anything can look really pretty if we put hemp seeds on, but I'll show you a good way to put them on because there is a good way of putting them onto any type of cookie or anything like that, which means that they will actually stick on, because sometimes you put them onto a cookie or a cake or something like that and they kind of fall off. So, you know, you'll pick up a cookie and you'll just get hemp seeds all over you. So, you know, and we don't want that at all. So there is a good method to make sure that they actually stick to the cookie. And then also we have here our figs. So with our figs, they are another optional ingredient. So you can add them to the inside of the cookies. So effectively kind of like making a sandwich with them. So we can use the figs, but that is an optional extra. It's just that we do really like, both me and Jeff really like fig rolls. Fig rolls are absolutely lovely, really lovely. So, you know, it's an optional thing for you guys if you do also really like dried figs. Okay, so Justine said, can you use flour instead of millet? No, you need some sort of grain, and that's what we're kind of like going for. I think that the flour would make it a bit too compact. So in that case, what I would say to do, Justine, is use the flour instead of the millet, but with the oats, don't blend them. So I'm going to blend them so that they're in a powder, but don't you blend them. So you leave your oats as they are, because, you know, if they're all kind of like ground and the flour's ground, then it's going to be much too compact. Okay, so Catherine said, sorry, different theme. That's absolutely fine. Can you use red bush tea for your kombucha recipe? No, you can't. So any kombucha needs to be made with a caffeinated tea. You can also make it with coffee, which I don't recommend because it's disgusting. It sounds great. Coffee, kombucha, two of the things that I love in life. Put them together. No, not a good idea at all. Not a good idea. That was very disappointing. But no, Catherine, you do need caffeine for your kombucha. I'm afraid. Sarah says unsoaked raw buckwheat, have loads. Yes, you can definitely use unsoaked raw buckwheat for this. Sarah says that she has 45 grams of millet. Okay, so that would make a half recipe, or up the amount of oats. So add 155 grams of oats and the rest in millet. Sarah says, could I use applesauce instead of oil or pushing it? I'm not sure about that. I would say, you know, if you don't mind just trying it out as an experiment, then do so. But the oil in this recipe does enable these cookies to become quite crisp. So these are here's one I made earlier, and they're nice and firm around the outside. So the oil definitely gives them that. Let me know if I can find one that's a bit thinner. Yeah, so they're nice and firm around the outside. Sorry. I really like these. Good, because we're going to have 2 trays of them. Jeff, if you're watching, best get your cookie pants on. Right. Sorry. Yes, the oil makes them nice and crisp on the outside. So the only thing that might change there, Sarah, is that they're not as crisp on the outside. So, but I would see, and that might not be a huge thing for you. I like my cookies to have that kind of crunch. I don't like them to be too soft. I like the crunch, and then maybe like the soft on the inside. Very, very nice. Colleen said, can I use medjool dates instead of the figs? So that's just like an optional extra for you. You don't have to. It's just because I really like fig rolls, and I've been thinking about making a fig roll recipe recently. That's a hard sentence. I've been thinking about making a fig roll recipe recently, and this was my lazy way of doing it. So you don't have to do it like that. They're nice as they are. They're really nice as they are. But if you want a bit of extra sweetness, then shove a dried fig, a date, a prune. They get a bad rap. They're great. Anything like that, stick them in the middle, make a cookie sandwich with it, and there you go. You've got a kind of like lazy fig roll, lazy prune roll, lazy date roll, etc., etc. Colleen has, of course, already guessed. We have lovely little hearts floating from coming out of our rainbow. So our rainbow today is making all of these hearts and all of this love. So, and that's all for you. Right. Okay. Sue says, can I just use all oats? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this was like a recipe because people had like millet at home, and they're like, oh, well, I made like one recipe with millet and it was all right, but I want something else to do with it. So yeah, absolutely fine. You can use all oats, that's fine. Gloria, thank you for the smiles and the hearts. Patricia, can I use raisins instead of figs? I don't have any other dried fruit at the moment. So I would say just leave them out, because the raisins are going to be a bit too small. They're not going to stick in the middle, but it is an optional extra. So we'll get to this point where we've got cookies. Oh, there we go. Yeah. See, we've got cookies. So they're fine as they are at the moment. They don't have any dried figs or anything like that. And then we put a dried fig in between this one and another one. And therefore we would make kind of like lazy fig rolls. But I would just leave that out if you've only got raisins. And Patricia also says, also I have flax seeds and hemp powder, but not hemp seeds. So flax seeds, I think. And that's just to decorate the top. So if you don't decorate the top, then they'll come out like this, which is, you know, nice. But if you have some type of like small seed, whether that's hemp seeds like I've got, or flax seeds, or sesame seeds, or even black sesame seeds, which are lovely, poppy seeds, any small seed, then you'll make it look more like that. Okay, and that's a bit more Instagrammable. Basically, it's a bit more Instagrammable. So it depends whether that is a factor for you. But it will taste like pretty much the same. The only real other difference is that if you want to bring more like small seeds, because they are so good for you, you want to bring them more into your diet, this is a really good way of doing it. Because sometimes, like, you know, you can scatter them on like salads, which is very, very pretty. I definitely recommend that you do that. But sometimes it can be a really great way to bring seeds into your body through the guise of cookies. because you don't feel like you are eating healthy food at all. You feel like, you know, you're eating like naughty decadent food. You're just like sitting away there eating, you know, and you're getting all this nutrition, which is great, which is great. I mean, that's such a win-win-win. Okay, Colleen said, I only have millet flour, so should I not grind the oats? No, you should grind the oats. Okay, we'll get on to the recipe now, and then we can talk more about that as we go. Annie said, these biscuits sound so healthy. I was going to suggest that you do a week of snacks suitable for people who like a snack after exercise. Everyone is exercising now, and it made me think it would be a good option. That's a really, really great idea. Really great idea. And quite often after I'm doing weights, I want a snack that has a lot of protein in it, and this will actually have a lot of protein in it, which is great. And in fact, it might be good before a run as well, for a pre-workout snack, because if we eat anything sweet, it tells our body that we actually have more energy. And it's a complete like psychosomatic thing, because there is no way that our body can get the energy from sugary foods that quickly. It's totally in our head. But there have been researchers that have shown, you know, people who are running, if you give them something sweet, then immediately they feel like they've got more energy. So be a good. Colleen says, what is this exercise you speak of? Okay, so Colleen hasn't run, but yeah, each to their own, each to their own. Okay, let's get on to the recipe and make some cookies together. Right, okay, so first of all, of course, we have our millet over here. So this is millet in its original form. You know, it looks a bit like couscous, small little balls, essentially. But we have ground that. So I'm not going to show you guys me grinding it today because it's really noisy. But I'll show you the machine that I used. So you need something like, you know, a high-speed blender or the chopper attachment of a hand blender or a food processor. You need something like this. And so you can just pop your millet into your food processor, but don't whiz it yet, because there are going to be a few things that go into the blender. So as I said, this is our 100 grams of millet that will be blended, and then this is the powder that comes out of it. So see, it's quite nice and fine. There we go. It's really quite nice and fine. So millet does need to be cooked as well in order for us to eat it. You shouldn't eat it raw. I don't think it can necessarily like do you loads of damage apart from like giving you a really nasty tummy ache. So that's our millet, and then we have our 100 grams of oats here. So it doesn't really matter with this recipe what type of oats you use, because you're going to be grinding them anyway. For those of you out there who aren't going to be grinding your oats, so say for example the substitution that we just talked about with Justine, where instead of the millet she's using regular flour, then I would suggest these kind of like finer porridge oats. So you don't want them to be like the big steel cut oats that we would use more for flapjacks. You want them to be a bit fine. So we call them porridge oats in the UK. I think in the US you might call them instant oats. Colleen says, so we're making psycho cookies. Yup, that's what we're doing. Sarah says, oh, so we are making powder out of the millet. Yes, we are. Yeah, we're grinding the millet before we use it. And so this is the powder that I've made with the oats. So oats can go into a really nice, soft, fine powder. And when we bake with oats and oat flour, oat powder, we get a really nice browning. Really, really lovely browning. So for you guys who make bread out there, I think it would probably be a really good addition to making to your bread recipe. Because you get a really lovely Maillard reaction on the top. So that's our oats. So if any of you guys are cooking along at home, I know that some of you, despite me being all last minute about this, said that you would give it a go. So you know, you do need to grind these two so that you've got a powder. But what I would do is I would wait and add your zest. So as I said, you can use lemon, lime, orange, grapefruit, any flavour like that. It will work really, really well with this recipe. Okay, so But if you zest these, then it is a really good idea if you put them into the blender with your oats and also your millet, because you're going to be grinding these anyway. And when we zest these, sometimes they can be in quite big bits. It depends on your grater. I've got one of these lovely things, so I'm going to be fine. No pun intended. But if your grater isn't as fine as this, then pop the zest into your blender along with your flours and grind it all at the same time. Right, okay guys, so we're just going to start by mixing our flours. So we've got our oat flour and our millet flour there. There we go. And then we'll add our zest. I'm going to go for lemon this time. The ones that I made earlier today were with lime. And I've made it with orange zest before as well. So you really do this to taste. I'm going to do the whole of the lemon. I really like sour things, so. Khan, welcome, welcome. Sarah says, should we grind millet and the oats together? So Sarah, if you grind the millet and the oats and the zest together, if you don't have a good fine zester like this, because we want the zest to be as small as we can, as small as we can get it. The smaller it is, the more all that lovely flavour will be in all of the cookies rather than in the occasional bite. Okay, so there we go. Got lots of lovely sour lemon zest in there. It's just how I like it. And then we just need to pop our coconut sugar into here. You guys can use any sugar that you want, any sugar that you're comfortable with eating. Just so you know that I really like coconut sugar. So that's what I'm going to be using. And mix that in really well. Okay. Oh, oh, Khan, I hope that you're feeling okay now. Thank you for joining us. You've got a lot of love waiting here for you. Catherine said, "Can I grind the coconut sugar in the millet with the oats?" Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it really doesn't matter at all. So yeah, you can do that just to make things a bit quicker for you. I'm always up for cutting corners too, Catherine. Okay, so now we've essentially just mixed all of these dry ingredients, and we're going to add our oil and our milk. So I really like using extra virgin olive oil in some cookie recipes. We've actually got another recipe on the website for extra virgin olive oil fennel cookies, if anybody's interested. It's a similar recipe to this one. Sarah says, will it be okay to use date paste instead? Is that instead of the sugar? Okay, so I'm just going to mix this in. And we'll get a good dough with this. So we've still got our pistachio butter and our syrup here. And by the way, you guys can use whatever syrup you want to use. This might seem a bit dry at the moment, but it will be the right texture. So Sarah said yes. So that was date paste instead of the sugar. To be honest, I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference, but you might just need a bit more of it. You know, so it's a bit sweeter. So, but we're going to be making a dough with this, you know, and it is quite thick. We don't want it to rise or anything like that, so we don't have to factor in that date paste is a heavier sugar than coconut sugar. So I think that you should be all right, but I would add maybe a bit more of it. Just because date paste doesn't tend to be as sweet as our coconut sugar. Okay, guys, so Rosaria said hello and thanks for your amazing videos. No worries. Can I use xylitol? Okay, so yes, you could use it, but I think that you would have to change the amounts. I think that you would have to change the amounts because I haven't used xylitol very much, you know, just like a couple of times. But from memory, I think you can't just do a straight swap. Is that right, Rosario? You have to make some adjustment. Okay, so I'm just gonna mix all this together, and it does become this really firm dough that can really stick together. Okay. And kneading it. So, David, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so now we've got it to this stage. I'm gonna pat it down, press it firmly down. There we go. And I'm purposefully using this nice wide pasta bowl. Here we go. Rosario said, yes, you are right. Okay, so that means that xylitol, you can't just do a straight swap with it. So I would imagine that xylitol, you probably need to use less of it. I think it's probably more sweet than coconut sugar. Okay, right, there we go. So I've made it like fairly flat. And now we're going to mix these two together. And the reason why, you know, we're not just adding it to it is because I wanted to have this like difference in colour and also slight difference in flavour as you're eating it. So, you know, it's not just like one homogeneous mass where just all of those flavours are in there together. We've got this marbling effect. So that's one of the things that you don't see when you put small seeds on top of it. You don't get to see the marbling effect. And that was what I wanted to go for with this recipe. So now that we've got our main cookie base, we can add our syrup to our pistachio butter. I was going to say pumpkin seed butter then. Pistachio butter. Ah, okay, so Catherine actually says that she's used it as a straight substitution instead of sugar in cakes. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. I don't know, maybe does xylitol differ between the brands? But it should say on the packet what the ratio should be. But I don't know if it does differ with brands. And she mentions about erythritol. And that is something that I have used and that we have used in the school for raw food recipes. And I have to be honest, I don't really get on with the flavour of it. It tastes, even though it's not artificial, it tastes quite artificial. But that's just like a personal preference. But that can be very, very sweet. So with that, you do have to be careful not to add too much. Okay, so we've mixed our pumpkin seed butter, and you keep mixing it. Sorry, pistachio butter. We've mixed our pistachio butter, and you keep mixing it, and it will stiffen. And so then you get this quite thick butter, and then we can let's just use our hands. Well, not let's us use our hands. I'll use my hands, and you can watch me. Here we go. So I'm just going to pat that down. There we go. And then I'm going to bring this side over. And this is going to be kind of like messy. You can't just do it like as a kind of roll because it's a bit crumbly, but that's fine because we want a marbling. We don't want it to be even. We want it to be a bit marbled. So we've got this already, and I'm just going to fold it over. So I want that marbling just to be quite uneven rather than all of the pistachio butter being right in the middle. Right, there we go. Okay, so now I've got to this point. What you can do is to make cutting it easier, you can pop this in the fridge. and you can chill it for half an hour, and then it will make it easy to cut. But of course, we can't just sit around and, you know, talk coconut jokes all day. So I'm gonna have to get to this like quick smart, really. So it isn't gonna be as firm as I would like it to be when I'm cutting it. So I'm just trying to make this into more of a round. When we're cutting our cookies, they can end up a bit square. And square cookies just don't look as pretty as round cookies. I don't know why. It's a bit squarest. Okay, but they do look better when they're round. So we'll do our best to make them round. So if you guys are going to put this in the fridge, then just wrap it in some cling film, or, you know, clean tea towel or some foil or whatever you want to wrap it in. So I don't, if you, oh yes, you can see we've got our line. We've got a few bits of the pumpkin seed butter, the pistachio butter. Oh my god, that is just one thing that I'm going to keep getting wrong. Okay, and let's see if we can come to a different angle. There we go. Hello. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, sometimes like you get one of those things, don't you, where it's like every time you go to say one word, you say something completely different. So I apologise for that. Now, I'm going to cut this into very thin slices. This is coming apart a little bit because I haven't chilled it, basically, because we don't have time. We don't have time, but we can just press it down a bit, get it back together. There we go. And just pop it onto our baking tray over here. So once you cut them, you might want to just mold them back into shape. So as you can see here, like it's a bit, you know, it's got a bit of an edge to it. So I'm just gonna try and coerce it back into being more of a round, and we can press it down as well. So if you think it's going to kind of like crumble apart, it looks a bit too crumbly, then you can just give it a bit of a press down. So these cookies are really nice if you cut to about here. So it's about 1 centimetre. There we go. So I'm just going to do this with all of them. You can cut them a bit thicker if you want, but they're crispier the thinner they are, which is what I like. Okay. Doug says, yay to squares. Okay, fine, we'll do all these as squares then. So, as I said, you can pop your dough into the fridge for half an hour, and then cut it. There we go. So we get quite a few out of this. I don't know how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 15. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, so they're looking pretty good. So there is a lot of flexibility with this recipe. We've already gone through, you know, some of the substitutions. You don't even have to put the zest in it if you don't have it. There's absolutely no problem at all. There's going to be lots of other flavours going on. You could, if you're not going to use zest, add a bit of cinnamon or ginger. They'd work really well with the pistachio butter as well. There we go. So nearly there. And so these are going to go in the oven for around 25 minutes. The longer you bake them, the more they will firm up. So as I said, I like my biscuits more crunchy. I like that texture. So I will make sure that mine are fully baked. If they're a bit wider as well, you might need to cook them for a bit longer. So just bear that in mind. There we go. So even though I've made this pistachio butter, I got it right that time. Wow. Okay, progress. Right. Even though we've got this pistachio butter in the middle, well, you know, going through this marbling effect, and I love the flavour of it. I don't much like the colour. You know, it's kind of like camo green, which isn't that pretty, which is why I think, you know, it can look quite good with our hemp seeds on it. So let me show you a good way of making sure that your hemp seeds actually stay on the cookies and they don't go down your top when you try to eat one. Just think of what if it doesn't stick together. You might need to add a bit more oil. Try adding a bit more oil or a bit more milk. There we go. Okay, so hemp seeds out here. Quite often what I see people doing is they'll take a cookie and then they will sprinkle on top of it. Now if you do that, they just won't stick. Even if like you try pressing them down, they won't stick. So don't do it that way. So what you need to do is you need to take your cookie and then you need to press it down in our hemp seeds and flatten it gently with the back of your hand. Flatten it gently on its back. There we go, and then lift it up and they're nicely stuck in place. There we go, so we can do this with a few of them. Okay. So just firmly sticking it down. Because Justine as well, one of the issues that we've got with you is that you are using plain flour. So plain flour can be a bit more thirsty possibly, so it might just need more liquid. Okay, so here we go guys, we've got we'll just do a few more. Oh, Catherine asked, those are shelled hemp seeds. Yes, yes they are. They are. Sorry, I thought I mentioned that. Yes, they are shelled hemp seeds. So they're the type that we scatter over salads and that type of thing, rather than the type that you use to make milk. Right, there we go. There we go. So I've just done a few there, and now we can pop these into the oven. So it's 180 degrees Celsius, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, gas Mark 4 for around 20-25 minutes, something like that. Okay, and of course, here's some we made earlier. There we go. Okay, guys, so as I said at the top of the show, we can put hemp seeds into these if we, we can put figs into these if we want to. Sorry, let's just come back over here. And so, but you can use any dried fruit if you want. And so this is a good way of making, so say for example, you know, you've made cookies and they're not as sweet as you would like them to be. This is a great healthy way of making them sweeter. So, you know, because sometimes we do that. Sometimes like the batter will taste like sweet enough, and then you know, once they're cooked, they're just not sweet enough at all. So this is a good option if you've made cookies and you're like, yeah, they're nice, but they could do with a bit of an extra sweetness. So I've got my fig here and I've just pulled it apart. Make sure that if you are using figs, you take that very top bit off that that is hard. And then grab a couple of cookies that are around the same size, and then we can just literally pop our fig in here. I'm going to put quite a lot of fig in mine. Okay. Right. And there we go. This is our lazy fig roll. It's our lazy fig roll. And it's really big as well. Now I'm going to eat it. Right, I'm going to come to the overhead view. And there we go. And hopefully you guys can see a bit more. So again, we'll find a couple that are around the same size. There we go. These ones are around the same size. And see with this one has this hard bit at the top. So we definitely want to take that off. And then we want to flatten this as much as possible. So we can you can either tear it in two or just tear it apart like I've done so there. And then squish it onto our first cookie. And then pop our other cookie on top. And Doug says he loves fig rolls. Me too. Me too. So you can decide to do this with your cookies if you want to, but you absolutely don't have to. And so, you know, with these cookies I didn't put the hemp seeds on, but they're equally nice without. It's just that I know, like, sometimes it can be really good for us when we hear people like Gemma yesterday talking about how good seeds are and, you know, that type of thing. We want to bring them into our diet, but we don't really know how. So it's a really fun way of doing that. So this is my fig roll. Excuse me a minute while I partake of my fig roll. Oh, really good. I love them. I really love them. So these ones actually have lime in, which is really lovely. But to be honest, I think that if you're going to put fig in, then either the orange or the lemon goes better with fig. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed that. Justine, I hope you're getting on okay. Please do let us know. Please do let us know. I mean, when it comes to substitutions, you know, sometimes those substitutions can work out okay, but you might just need a bit of an adjustment, especially when we're talking about like substituting flowers. Some flowers can be very thirsty flowers, and some flowers not so thirsty. So, you know, sometimes like these things don't work out exactly as they should. But anyway, I hope that you guys would like to make this. So those of you guys who have millet in your cupboards and you've been asking me what do you make with them, then I hope that you will give this a go, because it is a really, really lovely way to have these sweet treats that have loads of nutrition in them, like tons of nutrition in them. You know, you don't just have to have healthy food for your main meal or for your lunch. If we start eating things like this that we've actually made from scratch, you'll notice that you feel a lot healthier. So, you know, you can have these treats and still look good and feel really good too. Okay, so Justine said, I think it was me. Tastes yummy though. Good, good, good. Have you already baked them? That was quick. That was very, very quick. So, Tanya, thank you for joining us. And Daniela, thank you for joining us as well. So you will be able to catch up with the rest of the show and see if these pistachio cookies, these millet cookies, are something that you would like to make. I know that I'm going to be making them many times every week. So Justine says it's not at work today. So she's actually got the week off. So I expect her to make all of the recipes that are on our website, of which there is over 200. So let's get to it, Justine. Let us know how you get on. Okay, so Justine is actually tasting hers raw at the moment. So I hope they actually make it to the oven. They might not make it to the oven, but let us know. As ever, please do share your pictures of the recipes that you've been making, whether you're making our recipes or whether you're making your own, because it is really great for you guys to share your go-to recipes, and you will inspire others to make it as well. But I have to say, if you share a picture of one of your recipes, expect people to ask for the recipe, okay? So just be warned about that. Annie said, love the healthy snack demo. I have to add that it's not me who exercises, it's my healthy 18-year-old son. Sarah says, thank you to all of you. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with Katie's show. Katie, I don't know what Katie's making yet. It's going to be a surprise for me too. So join us again, same time, same place. And as always, have a great day.